Hello everyone, and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the tumultuous realm of Los Angeles high society, where fashion empires collided with personal betrayals and family secrets simmered behind dazzling facades, Luna Nozawa had become a name whispered with equal parts terror and fascination. She had gone from being an innocent intern at Forrester Creations to becoming a notorious character, suspected of murders, kidnappings, and manipulations that shocked the Forrester, Spencer, and Logan families to their very core. Luna's desperate escape from prison in late 2025 resulted in a furious rush through the streets near Will Spencer's beach house. Helicopters flew overhead, search groups scoured the region, and everyone, from Bill Spencer to Sheila Carter, appeared determined to find her. Luna believed she could persuade Will that they were meant to be together, especially given their convoluted history, which included a miscarriage and her obsessive claims. But Luna ran from the beach house after Will rejected her openly, labeling her a runaway with no future, and stumbled into the road at night. The headlights flared abruptly, the tires squealed, and the impact sounded like a thunderclap. The motorist jammed on his brakes, but it was too late. Or so it appeared. Luna lay crushed on the pavement, lifeless, as authorities closed in. Chief Baker arrived on the scene, evaluated the situation, and solemnly informed the gathered families that Luna Nozawa had died. The body was not displayed in detail to the bereaved or relieved spectators. The news circulated swiftly via phone calls and messages. Steffi Forrester felt a sigh of relief. Finn agonized with the death of a daughter he barely knew, and Luna's mother, Poppy Nozawa, experienced a mix of sadness and resignation. Everyone assumed that the threat was ended. However, in the darkness of that fatal night, the driver of the automobile was neither a random stranger or an unintentional passerby. It was Remy Price, the unstable young guy who had previously tormented Electra Forrester with deepfake pictures and possessed his own dark obsessions. Remy had been driving aimlessly, dealing with his complicated life, his blossoming relationship with Deke Sharp, his attempts at penance after being imprisoned, and the lingering regret over his past acts. He had met Luna before, when they were both outsiders in LA's wealthy circles. They had temporarily bonded by their mutual isolation. Luna saw Remy as a kindred spirit who understood rejection and desperation, whereas Remy saw Luna as someone who did not criticize his weaknesses. Their bond had been unorthodox, formed when Luna was hiding or plotting, and Remy was negotiating his release from prison and new identity attempts. When Remy's car collided with Luna, he felt panicked. He pulled over, his pulse racing, and went to her side. She was injured, severely bruised, probably with shattered bones and internal trauma, but alive and barely conscious. Her breathing was feeble, and blood seeped out of her head. The distant scream of sirens got louder, and the police helicopter's beams swept the area. Remy knew that if the authorities discovered her alive, she'd be instantly returned to prison, most possibly for life, considering her escape and earlier offenses. But something deeper stirred within him. This wasn't just about rescuing a friend from justice. It was about a deep, unexpected bond that had grown over time. Remy had always felt invisible, much like Luna. His obsession with Electra sprang from a warped desire for control and attention, but Luna was different. She had listened to him without sympathy or censure during their chance meetings, at Bill Spencer's mansion when she was under house arrest, or in brief chats when both were on the outskirts of society. Luna had confided in him about her desire for family, her wrath at Steffi for impeding her relationship with Finn, and her belief that love justified any action. In exchange, Remy had opened up about his childhood traumas, identity issues, and how Deke represented a shot at normalcy. Luna never mocked him. Instead, she empathized, seeing connections in their damaged lives. This gradually blossomed into something more profound for Remy, an unconscious protectiveness, or even an unrecognized affection. He saw Luna as a reflection of his own brokenness, someone who battled fiercely for what she desired, no matter the cost. Saving her was more than sympathy. It was loyalty born of the realization that, in a world that had abandoned them both, they had each other. Remy made a split-second decision on the road as traffic lights approached. He could not allow her to be taken. Not like this. He carried her limp body into his car, draping a jacket over her to hide the blood, and drove away before the entire search party arrived. Perhaps he manipulated the incident slightly, leaving traces that resembled a fatal hit-and-run, or used the pandemonium and low illumination to confound witnesses. When the police arrived shortly later, they discovered bloodstains and skid marks but no victim, presuming the corpse had been thrown or was killed based on the alleged impact sounds. Baker's claim of death sealed the deal. No one pressed for an instant corpse identification amidst the satisfaction that the danger was over. Remy drove to a distant location he knew, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts or a hidden motel he had utilized during his own difficult times. He took care of Luna as best he could, cleaning her wounds, splinting what he assumed were fractures, and keeping an eye on her as she went in and out of awareness. Days passed into weeks, and he risked everything to obtain medical supplies secretly, evading cameras and questioning. The lies damaged his relationship with Deke. Sudden absences, evasive answers, but Remy justified it to himself. This was more than just his new existence. It was about redemption in his own way, demonstrating that he could be the hero Luna needed when no one else would. Remy's unexpected decision was motivated by more than just friendship. Luna whispered thanks in quiet moments as she recovered, revealing her weakness beneath her normal shell. Remy knew he had fallen for her. Not the crazed villain the world saw, but the lost girl beneath, similar to how he saw himself. Luna represented an opportunity to rewrite his story. By saving her and faking her death, he might give them both a fresh start. Away from the Forrester's judgment, the Spencer's wealth games, and the relentless scrutiny. He wished they could start anew somewhere far away, where their pasts would not haunt them. It was crazy, perhaps reflecting Luna's own obsessions, but Remy found it meaningful. He had deceived everyone, police, relatives, even Deke, because losing Luna would mean losing the only person who genuinely understood his depravity without turning away. As Luna healed in Remy's secret safe house, whispers of mistrust began to circulate in Los Angeles. No funeral was held immediately, and no corpse was claimed. Some, like Sheila, pressed for information but were denied. Finn lamented quietly, Steffi went on triumphantly, and Will concentrated on Elektra. But Remy knew the truth. Luna existed because he couldn't stomach a world without her. His decision was motivated by a warped love, a hope that united they could overcome the odds that had destroyed them individually. It was possessive, hazardous, and doomed, but Remy believed it was the pinnacle of devotion. The deception continued for months. Remy fabricated documents claiming Luna's remains had been identified using limited evidence, thereby halting inquiries. He visited her on a daily basis, bringing food, news articles about how the city had moved on, and plans for escape. Luna, who had weakened but sharpened her edge, came to regard Remy as a partner rather than a sidekick. In isolation, their friendship became stronger, with personal chats and lingering touches. Remy explained his thoughts one night, under dim lighting, explaining how beating her had broken him, but protecting her had healed something inside of him. Luna, for once, did not manipulate. She responded, finding in Remy a loyalty Will had never shown. But fissures developed. Deke became skeptical of Remy's concealment and confronted him about late nights and inexplicable injuries sustained while transferring Luna. Elektra, already apprehensive of Remy due to his previous stalking, saw strange behavior when he returned to work intermittently. Whispers on social media and among family members questioned the fast death announcement. No open coffin, no DNA confirmation aired. Chief Baker concluded the investigation, but privately questioned inconsistencies. Remy's reason became clear. He saved Luna because she was the only person who made him feel complete. His previous actions resulted from rejection, but with Luna, he found acceptance. Faking her death was more than just protection, it was also possession. He deceived the world to retain her for himself, believing that their shared trauma could construct a future. But soaps like this never keep secrets hidden. As 2025 faded into 2026, signs of Luna's survival appeared. A sighting, a cryptic letter. Remy's unexpected reason, love born of mutual brokenness, would soon explode, bringing everyone back to pandemonium. In the end, Remy's actions were neither heroic nor evil in black and white terms. It was human, flawed, and deeply personal. He chose to save and hide Luna, since she represented redemption for them both. The world thought she was dead, but Luna was alive and hiding, plotting her comeback, with Remy serving as her inadvertent guardian and lover. The surprise was Remy's profound change, or perhaps revelation, as a result of this single irreversible decision. The story everyone thought they knew was based on a deception so meticulously crafted that even those closest to the reality never questioned it. When the news broke that Luna had died, grief swept through the village in typical waves: shock, denial, public mourning, and private guilt. Each person dealt with the loss in their own manner, never suspecting that the one who appeared the most heartbroken was actually the mastermind behind the hoax. Remy's decision to preserve Luna and convince the world she had died was neither irresponsible nor cruel. It was a choice motivated by fear, love, and an awareness of risks that no one else was willing to acknowledge. Remy had always been observant, the type of person who listened more than she spoke, who noted pauses between words and expressions that others assumed no one saw. Remy had felt something closing in on her long before Luna's alleged death. Life in the orbit of Forrester and Spencer was marked by more than just blatant dangers and dramatic confrontations. It was more subtle than that. Unexpected behavioral changes, half-finished talks, and secrets that piled up until they became unstable. Luna had become a liability not because she was weak, but because she knew too much and refused to follow the unwritten rules that kept everyone else safe. Luna had always held the belief that truth was sacred. She expressed her opinions, asked questions that others avoided, and refused to accept explanations that did not make sense. That trait made her admirable, but it also made her dangerous in a world where power was built on silence and selective honesty. Remy recognized it when others regarded Luna as emotional or naive. She watched Luna fight back against those who had the ability and incentive to destroy her if it suited them. Remy initially sought to warn her, softly advocating prudence and advising her to ease down and choose her battles. Luna laughed and waved it aside, confident that honesty would protect her. Remy's realization that Luna's life was genuinely in jeopardy came softly, without fireworks or screams. She happened to overhear a talk that wasn't intended for her ears. Names were gently thrown, ideas were teased out in delicate wording, and Luna's name appeared not as a person, but as a problem. The tone was calm, even bored, which scared Remy more than fury could. This wasn't a hurried threat that would vanish with time. It was a deliberate appraisal. Luna was inconvenient, and inconvenient individuals have a habit of disappearing. Remy was unable to ignore the signs after that. Luna's phone was suddenly filled with missed calls that remained unanswered. Meetings were postponed or canceled without explanation. Allies became distant. Even individuals who claimed to care for Luna began encouraging her to leave town for a while, claiming concern yet expressing relief at the prospect of her absence. Remy saw that if Luna stayed, she would be wounded emotionally and professionally. She'd be wiped. Saving Luna required doing something harsh and irreversible. Remy spent restless nights debating his alternatives, knowing that going to the authorities would not help. Too many strong people wielded too much power, and any formal probe would expose the very people that wanted Luna removed. Running away in the open would also be ineffective. Luna was too recognizable and linked. She would be watched, monitored, and eventually discovered. The only approach that guaranteed her safety was to completely remove her from the equation. Remy didn't get the idea to fake Luna's death right away. It crept into her mind as she replayed past discussions and recalled stories of people who had vanished and resurfaced under new names. At first, it seems impossible, even immoral. Allowing them to believe someone they loved had died felt like terrible cruelty. However, as the pressure increased and the risks became more concrete, the concept evolved from inconceivable to necessary. Remy was not deciding between good and bad. She had to choose between losing and surviving. When Remy eventually told Luna the truth about what she had overheard, she reacted just as Remy had expected. She refused to hide, persisted on confronting those responsible, and sought proof. She claimed that disappearing would only make them stronger, and that living in terror was not living at all. The dispute lasted late into the night, with voices rising and falling as both ladies grappled with the realities of their situation. The subject moved only after Remy broke down, revealing her fear of finding Luna wounded or worse. Luna realized then that this was not about control or manipulation. It was about love and desperation. Agreeing to the strategy did not make things simpler. The logistics themselves were enormous. Remy had to think about every aspect and potential weakness. The death had to appear realistic enough to persuade not only the general public, but also those trained to check for inconsistencies. It required meticulous organization, resources, and allies who could be completely trusted. Remy called in favors she never intended to utilize and relied on relationships she had carefully kept at a distance. Each step took her deeper into a labyrinth of deceit from which she knew she could never totally escape. Remy did an excellent job in her duty that day. She sobbed at the proper times, asked the correct questions, and acted as surprised as everyone else. The setting was chaotic, full of uncertainty and sadness, which worked to her advantage. The chaos discouraged scrutiny. People were too preoccupied with their own loss to question the details. By the time concerns surfaced, the story had already been established. Luna was gone. Nobody saw the aftermath behind closed doors. Remy did not feel relieved in the way she expected. Instead, she felt hollow, tormented by the realization that she had sentenced herself to a life of silence. She couldn't talk about Luna, grieve her publicly, or dispute the false stories that spread almost quickly. Luna became a symbol of other people's shame, rage, and remorse, and Remy was forced to listen in quiet. Luna, on her part, battled with the consequences of being alive when the rest of the world thought she was dead. She had expected independence, but what she discovered was solitude. She missed her old life, including the aspects that had damaged her. She watched from a distance while the people she cared about grieved for her, blaming themselves for things that were not addressed. The weight of that knowledge pushed down on her, making her wonder if survival had been worth the cost. Remy remained her sole anchor, the only person who knew the whole truth and bore the weight of it. Remy's surprise decision was motivated by more than simply the imminent threat to Luna's life. It was something deeper and more intimate, a fact Remy had never revealed. Years before, Remy had let someone down. She had noticed warning signs back then as well, but she decided to assume that everything would work out on its own. They did not. The loss that followed transformed her, teaching her that inaction may be as lethal as betrayal. Saving Luna was Remy's way of refusing to make the same mistake again, and proving to herself that she could act decisively when it counted. This history explains why Remy was willing to be loathed if the truth was out, as well as why she accepted the subsequent loneliness. She wasn't looking for appreciation or acknowledgement. She was looking for redemption. Every day she lived with the falsehood served as a reminder of the cost of survival and love. She watched as those around her moved on, as Luna's name became less commonly mentioned, as life rebuilt itself around Remy's absence. Each move was both a success and a minor sadness. Over time, cracks appeared in the facade. Not because Remy was irresponsible, but because secrets of that importance tend to rise to the surface. A stray remark, an unexpected coincidence, a time when morning didn't feel quite right. A few people began asking inquiries, albeit quietly at first. Remy had anticipated and prepared for this, but it didn't make things easier. Each falsehood needed another lie to sustain it, and each explanation added another layer of deception. Luna, hiding behind a new identity, watched these events with a mix of terror and longing. She wanted to reach out, reassure people she was still alive, and regain the aspects of herself she had buried under her old name. Remy implored her to be patient, reminding her that the danger had not gone away, but had simply changed. The folks who wanted Luna gone may still be watching for a misstep. The illusion of death kept them at bay. The most agonizing part for Remy was seeing Luna remembered incorrectly. Stories reduced her to something simpler, easier to digest. Her complexity, intransigence, and courage were either reduced or completely rewritten. Remy knew the truth, but was unable to change the record. She carried the true Luna with her, protecting her memory as the world mourned a version that was only partially true. Remy gradually realized that preserving Luna required an ongoing commitment rather than a one-time deed. It meant persistent vigilance and sacrifice. It meant admitting that her life will never be the same again. Relationships deteriorated, possibilities faded, and trust became brittle and conditional. However, when Remy allowed herself to consider the alternative, the result was unimaginable. A living Luna in concealment was far preferable to a dead one mourning openly. When the truth eventually threatened to surface, it did so as an inquiry rather than an accusation. Someone close to Remy recognized a pattern that could not be overlooked. The conflict that ensued was silent and painful. Remy did not refute it. She could not. Instead, she offered a version of the reality that explained the decision but without revealing Luna. She talked about fear, about sheltering others from forces greater than themselves, and about the impossibility of finding clean solutions in a chaotic world. It was enough to put an end to the queries, at least temporarily. When all the complexity and duplicity were removed, the heartbreakingly basic reason for Remy's actions became clear. She loved Luna so much that she was willing to let her go, even if it meant being misunderstood forever. She prioritized Luna's life over her own tranquility, reputation, and desire to be perceived as good. Remy made hers knowingly and without apology in a society where survival frequently necessitated moral compromise. Whether the truth will ever be revealed remained doubtful. Perhaps one day the danger will pass and Luna will return, forcing everyone to confront the falsehood they have been living with for so long. Perhaps the secret would remain hidden, another unseen thread influencing the lives around it. What mattered most in the end was that Luna was alive, breathing, and free in ways she could not have been otherwise. Remy, despite everything she had lost, was certain she would make the same decision again. The story was not actually about death or deception. It was about how far someone would go to defend someone they loved when the world provided no safe haven. It was about realizing that even the most noble gestures can appear to be treachery from the outside. And it was about a secret that, while devastating, was motivated not by malice or ambition, but by a desperate, unwavering commitment to keep someone alive at any costs.